Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back David Icke.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. I got a present. Okay. So the next section is how that knowledge we looked at before is used to create this Orwellian state that's unfolding. The one that makes us believe, or wants us to believe, that war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. All of which is based on selling us fear. This is the basic structure that they want. I'll come to that more in a minute. But basically what we're looking at is the centralization of power, incessant centralization of power, for a simple reason that if there's a few of you and you want to control the many, you have to centralize decision-making. The more diversity there is, the less control you're going to have over it. So you want to centralize everything. And that's why the world has been hurtling towards centralization of power in all areas of our lives for centuries. And it's got faster. Why has it got faster? Simple equation. The more you centralize power, the more power that you then have to centralize even quicker. And this is where the momentum of speed has increased and increased. But before I start this section, again, I want to emphasize the information from the first part, which is we live in an illusory reality in terms of solidity. We are decoding reality. It's a kind of a virtual reality experience that we're having. We are consciousness. They want to put us in that state of detached consciousness and limit the frequencies that we are decoding and therefore control the reality that we experience. And so what I'm looking at here in this section as I start a chronological story is I'm looking at a timeline. One timeline, one reality within what even mainstream scientists are now talking about, these different realities, parallel universes and stuff, which interpenetrate each other. This is one timeline. That's all. It's the timeline that we are decoding. But there are many other timelines, many other realities interpenetrating this one, and also there's a hell of a lot more to know than I've got so far. It's an interim report. It's always going to be. So, we go back. We can pick this story up in this timeline in ancient times, prehistorical times, in terms of official history, where there were, it would appear, two great civilizations which made together a global civilization, one based on a landmass which has become known as Atlantis, and one which has become known as Mu or Lemuria. And these were advanced, very advanced civilizations with, in many ways, knowledge beyond what is available in the public arena today. And they went to great technological lengths, great understandings, for instance, in how you can create a magnetic field which then makes vast stones basically weightless, and you can push them along and maneuver them around. Great technological advancement, at least among the elite. These civilizations came to an end, it seems, with great cataclysmic events. It's interesting that when you've got studies which put together the ancient folklore around the world describing what the Bible calls the Great Flood, but that's just one version of the same recurring story in every ancient culture. And then you look at the geological and biological record of the Earth, the two correlate in terms of great cataclysmic events which cause fantastic geological upheavals. Of course, the story of Noah in the Bible, which is a rewrite of a much older Sumerian story, which probably is mirrored, in fact is mirrored all over the world using different names for Noah. That is the most famous one of the Great Flood and the Great Cataclysms, but it is just one. The survivors of these advanced civilizations, and indeed before, moved out into other lands, and they took with them this advanced knowledge that was part of that once global society. But now these societies became isolated, and that original knowledge started to go its own way. Same knowledge, but it started to be expressed in different ways, using different symbolisms, different tools, different names, etc. And this story is also why, when historians and others have gone into these places like the Maya and South America and the Maya in Central America and other places, they were astounded when they first apparently discovered these civilizations, these groupings of people, that the same basic stories that they were telling, religious stories and other stories that they were telling in Europe, were being told by these other societies that apparently had no connection to Europe whatsoever, because we've just discovered you. Well, these original stories come from the original knowledge that's just got isolated. They're the original stories from the pre-historical times of the global society, the Golden Age, as some accounts call it. And I started to see this as I've traveled around the world, where you see the same knowledge expressed in different ways, because it's just gone its own way because of the isolation. Credo Mutwa, the Zulu shaman, he throws carved bones in different symbols to read energy fields, to predict the future or read the future. And what you do is you brought this basket of these bones and you put your hands over them. What it's doing, you're impregnating your energy field into these bones, the energy fields of the bones, because everything's energy. And then he throws the bones, and where they land in relationship to each other makes him read the signs. Because what he's doing is reading your energy field. Because as I kind of saw as I was watching this happen, when you put your magnetic field into those bones, the vibrational state of your magnetic field is a vibrational pattern or imprint of you, your state, and also the deeper levels of consciousness that you have that have an awareness of what is to come. And these bones have an energy field, and their energy field reflects what they symbolize. So if they symbolize a certain concept, then they will carry the energy of that concept. So when you put your hands in, or your energy in, it makes a magnetic connection. These different energy fields, called bones when we've decoded them into holograms, connect into your energy field and sync with the magnetic patterns that you've got, and they fit in where their magnetic patterns fit into you. And so where the bones land and how they appear on the floor is decided before they're thrown. It's decided in the basket by the magnetic connections that have been made. And this is also why you get the same thing with rune stones, because rune stones are just exactly the same knowledge expressed in a slightly different way. This is where tarot cards come from. Why do you pick that card and not that one? Magnetic connection, same thing. And it's the same knowledge, that same original global knowledge. Also, as these peoples with these advanced knowledge and understandings went into other areas of the world, not just after the cataclysms, but also before it, they were the people that had the knowledge to build these fantastic ancient structures that even today people say we couldn't build that now, or we'd struggle to. How did they do it, these primitive people? Because they were working with this advanced knowledge. But history just shuts this stuff out because it doesn't fit the song sheet. In Peru, you've got, this is just one example, these stones are hundreds of tons. You couldn't get a cigarette paper between them, they're so brilliantly put together. These are the Nazca lines in Peru, in the Nazca Plains, and these depictions of animals and insects and birds that are created by scoring the top surface of the land away, they can only be seen in their entirety, some of them, at 2,000 to 3,000 feet, or in plains of considerable height, because they're so vast. Primitive people did that? No. Great knowledge did that. And this is a very significant area of the world in terms of the recovery from the cataclysmic events and the resettlement of these peoples from this global society. People in conventional history, they call, for instance, Sumer, Mesopotamia, what we now call Iraq, the cradle of civilization. No. It wasn't the start of civilization. It was one of the major points of recreation of a civilization after the cataclysmic events had brought an end to the old one. And what we're seeing now, and what's happening, is this global society is now re-emerging in another way as these formerly isolated societies start to connect together again. In fact, it's been going on, of course, for a very long time. And another connection that you have between these areas and many other areas in the world is of an interbreeding between a non-human race, force, whatever, and humans, creating a hybrid bloodline, a fusion of the two DNAs. Even in Genesis, we have one version of this, but you find this all over the world, in every culture. As the Bible says in Genesis, there were giants on the earth in those days, or in the earth as it puts it, and also after that, where the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. And the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. These hybrid bloodlines, this interbreeding, produced the kings and queens and the elite royal families of the ancient world, where they claim their right, their genetic right to be the king or the queen or the leader because of their connection to the gods. And all over the world you find this. And what do we have today? We have the queen as head of state of this country purely because of her DNA. If she had a different DNA, she might be cleaning the throne, not sitting on it. You know, that's how ludicrous it is. And this is where it comes from. These people claim to be elite and special because of this hybrid bloodline nature connection to the gods. And in